Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at a Season 8 support guide for Shen. So I'm excited to talk about this. I know a lot of people have been talking about Shen for a little bit and trying to get me to try him out, and I tried him and he was okay, but I think that he has gotten a lot stronger, particularly over the last patch. I just played him last night for Viewers Night, which happens every Tuesday if you're interested. You can find information about becoming a member and joining Viewers Night if you want in the description. But I think he's actually a lot better than I thought he was, and I want to go ahead and make a guide for him because I think he's kind of the hot topic right now, and I think you probably are going to see a lot of him in pro play at the start of the season unless he receives some nerfs at the beginning. And I just kind of figured out some stuff as I was playing him. I thought through the process about why I think he's good right now, because I had just thought that champions like Alistar and Leona would just be better than him most of the time in Rakan. But I think he does have a very unique place, and I think that he is distinctly strong right now. So I want to go ahead and go into that and sort of what's going on with him. First of all, let me start with his abilities here, and then we'll talk about why I think that overall he's a pretty decent support. Let's just talk about sort of who he is, what he does. He has changed over the years if you haven't seen him in a while. He's been a very good top laner. Throughout a lot of last season and even into this season, he's still a very strong top laner. And they've tried to nerf him out of top lane primarily by nerfing his items, not nerfing him directly as much, although he did receive a direct nerf on 7.24. And so what I mean is they've been nerfing things like Bramble Vest, they changed around Sunfire, which actually ended up being better for tanks. But I'm not quite sure why he's not playing in the top lane as much. I'm not a top lane expert. I think that maybe Ornn is pressuring him out right now, or maybe Maokai is pressuring him out. So we're not seeing him as much top, but you're seeing a lot of him as support right now. So if you just look at, you know, Pro Builds, which is an interesting website to check out, you can see who's been playing which champion. You'll notice every single one of these Shen games is support. There are no top Shens anymore. It's all support Shen. And there's a lot of support Shen. Okay, so almost everybody's running him with Ignite, some people with Exhaust. So he's become very popular. He's not a secret. Now, I haven't personally had a hard time playing against Shen, but I think people are just either itemizing or playing him incorrectly. He is a bit more challenging to play than it seems at first glance if you're really trying to optimize him. But this is kind of the new hotness, so I do want to do a guide for it. So let's talk about his abilities real quick. So first thing that I noticed when I was playing him is he's actually quite fast. 340 is pretty fast, and it feels like he's fast in lane compared to some of the other tanks. I haven't actually compared them apples to apples. Let me see. Alistar is the other one you're probably going to see a lot of in pro play. Yeah, Alistar is 330, so Shen is 10 faster, which you can definitely feel early on. You probably won't see Leona in pro play as much, but you'll see her in solo queue a lot. 335, so she's a bit faster. So he's the fastest of kind of these core tanks. I think Rakan is only probably like 330 or something. He might even be lower. Oh, he's 335. Okay, so he's a little bit faster than the other tanks, which doesn't make a huge difference, but you can definitely feel it. Another very conspicuous difference is that he uses energy. And this is a pretty big deal that I really had not appreciated until I played a bit more Shen. This is really nice because you don't have to get mana. And mana items are very hard for tanks to get right now because a lot of the best items do not have mana on them. And the mana costs on a lot of tanks can be prohibitive. So if we look at, you know, let me just do the League Wikia here. Like, especially Alistar, because last night I also played a game of Alistar and we won and he felt pretty powerful, but there were just some fights where after I did 1 or 2 spell rotations, I was just out of mana. So if the fight lasted for very long at all, or if it was just a fiesta and we were just running around chasing people down, I would run out of mana. Because tanks do not have very high base mana. He starts at 278, which is really low. Gets a very low amount per level. Has pretty low base mana regen. Then his spells are pretty expensive. I mean, you know, 1 WQ combo, kind of this mid-range, you got like 75 plus 65. That's 140, and then if you want to throw a trample on top of that, it's 190. I mean, that's half of your mana bar at level 3 if you want to try an all-in. And then if you want to throw an ultimate on top of that, that's, you know, going to be, by level 6, half or maybe even more than half of your mana bar. So you really don't have that many spell rotations. You can do, like, 2 sets of spells and that's it. And for these extended fights where you're just running around, it's just, you know, typical solo queue fiesta, Or you just haven't been able to back, like maybe you want to get some deeper wards and then you're getting chased, or, you know, fights just go on or drag on, or you just can't back. That can really tax you. There were a lot of times, if you go back and watch my stream from 1-2, where with Alistar, I was like, oh my god, I could have made this play, but I ran out of mana, or I just couldn't do what I wanted to do because I ran out of mana. And Leona's similar. We don't have to look at the exact numbers on her, but it's similar. She's going to run out of mana. Shen doesn't have that problem because he has energy. So he can stay on the battlefield and he can just keep participating in these fiestas because he never runs out of his resource, which is energy. He can run low at times if you try to use all of your spells in conjunction, but he has stuff that gives him a lot of energy back. Like if you're properly hitting people with your Shadow Dash and Twilight Assaults, you're probably not going to run out of energy in fights. So, you know, there might be some spaces where I never felt it at all when I played Shen. I always was able to do what I wanted to do. I was never sitting around waiting on energy. So in theory, you could run out of energy. But if you're hitting your stuff, you're probably not going to run out of energy in fights. And so that's a really nice perk. And a lot of this has to do with his itemization, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or just overall tank itemization, in that mana items just aren't that great right now on tanks. Like Frozen Heart's not amazing. It's okay, but there are just better options out there. You can do Frozen Heart, Iceborne Gauntlet, or Zeke's Convergence to get mana off of tank items right now, or something like a Righteous Glory. But I feel like those are really lackluster compared to things like Knight's Vow, Locket, Face of the Mountain. Like I feel like there are just better options out there. So Shen doesn't have to sacrifice to get some of these other core items. Whereas I'm starting to think on Alley, you know, as a third or fourth item, maybe Iceborne Gauntlet wouldn't be a terrible idea, just so you get that extra 20% CDR and the mana that you want, and the extra, you know, damage and all that stuff. But Alistar's a different video. I'll try to do an Alistar guide soon. But that is one thing that sets Shen apart, is that he has energy. He doesn't need the mana, and it's very nice if you play him, if you're used to playing other tanks, like not running out of mana in extended trades. Okay, so what else is unique about him? Well, he has this shield that he gets periodically. So he gets it fairly often. It's every 10 seconds. And if you trigger an ability that successfully hits at least one champion, now if you hit 5 champions with your Q or a taunt or something, it doesn't stack. But if you hit at least one person, you get the bonus, where it's reduced by 4 seconds down to 7 seconds. So in a fight, if you're just constantly hitting people, yeah, it just affects one champion. It doesn't even say enemy champions. So it could be ally champions. So if you use the Spirit Refuge to protect yourself or protect an ally, that would also count. Yeah, I believe that would count. The Q definitely counts, the Shadow Dash definitely counts, and the ult definitely counts. And I think that the W would probably also count. Not 100% about that, but basically this thing's up all the time, pretty much in fights. And, you know, even at level 6... it's 65 base and then 14% of your bonus health. So after you get a bonus health item or two and you start to get to, you know, maybe 500 bonus health, that's going to be an additional 70. So that's 135 shield. And then once you get up to level 11, it's an 80 base and you might have, you know, 1,000 bonus health. And so then all of a sudden it's a 220 shield. So this shield is just constantly refreshing. It's constantly up on him. If for some reason you get things that give you plus heal and shield, like if you want to go Redemption as your final item or something, which some people do with Shen. Not a lot of pros are going to get to that final item because games don't go that long. See, this person has Redemption, this person does. It's always like as a final item, almost always. But... you know, in lower elo, you know, less than Challenger, like, you know, Platinum and lower, then games are going to go on longer and there's a greater likelihood that you're going to get to 6 items. But if you do happen to get something that has plus healing and shielding, then it would affect this as well, which is nice. Although you usually don't get those kind of items on him. Certainly not until very, very late in the game. Alright, his Q is something that can be very powerful and can also... people can mess up a lot. I just did a coaching session on Shen, so be sure to check that out. I'm also going to release a Shen gameplay video from last night. The game that I played last night is Shen, if you want to check that out. So you'll have a couple of Shen games you can watch in addition to this guide once the guide comes out. Probably later today I can have this released after I upload it and put timestamps on it and all that stuff. But, okay, so his Q, the Spirit Blade... just stays wherever you put it until you use your Q. The Q moves it from where it is to its new location. Okay, so it'll just sit in one spot until you use your Q to move the Spirit Blade. Well, if you use your ult, then the Spirit Blade comes too. But basically, what you want to do with this is whenever you press Q, the Spirit Blade comes flying towards you. You want the Spirit Blade to hit an enemy. Okay? So if it hits them, it doesn't do damage. But if it goes through them, then it deals bonus damage. Okay? So you always want to position yourself to where the blade is going to come through and hit the other person. So let me give you an example. So if your Spirit Blade, let's say you're fighting in lane right here. Let's say your Spirit Blade's right here. You dash in, and this happens in the coaching video. Let's say your Spirit Blade's like right here. You dash in, taunt somebody right here. You're on this side of them. The enemy's like right here. Then you press your Q. Your Spirit Blade goes directly to you. Does not pass over them, and you won't get the bonus. So what you would want to do is after you taunt them, you step slightly to the right here, and then once your Spirit Blade comes through, then it connects with them. So you always want to be watching where your Spirit Blade is, and just keep the blade between, keep the enemy between you and the blade, is what I mean to say. So that the blade passes over them. And then if the blade passes over them on its way to you, then it slows them by 35% for 2 seconds, which is pretty big. That's a pretty big slow. Because it's not diminishing. It's 35% the entire time. So it's a really nice slow. It's going to hold them still while you auto-attack them. You get 50% bonus attack speed on your next 3 attacks, and you deal flat damage plus a percentage of their max health. So even at level 1, you're dealing 12% of their max health, in addition to an extra 45 damage, in addition to your normal auto-attack damage, which you're just attacking 50% faster. So, and empowered attacks against monsters deal double damage. So, let's see. Enemy champion. Okay, so it has to collide with a champion, so you can't just have it go through a dragon or a baron and get the bonus damage. Although it does, like, this base here does do bonus damage whenever you proc your Q. So basically, you always want to be really close to the enemy so that you can get those melee attacks in. You want the blade to pass through them, slow them down, land your 3 attacks, do some massive damage. And this gets down to a pretty low cooldown. It gets to a 5 cooldown. And then every time you hit them with that, it's going to reduce your key barrier, which is going to give you tankiness. That's kind of your engine, is you just constantly reposition to get the blade to go through them, slows them down, gives you more key barriers, lets you keep cranking out the damage. Your W is basically an invulnerability zone against auto attack. So everyone in the zone, not just you, all allies in this zone dodge all attacks for 2 seconds when you cast it. Now, this activates where the Spirit Blade is. So you need to make sure that you move this blade in, and then you stand in the zone. So a really good tactic is you want, if someone tries to dive your AD carry, you taunt on top of them to peel them off of the AD carry, use your Spirit Blade, pull the blade through the enemy so that you get the bonus. Now it's going to be on top of you. Then you use your W, and the W will give your ally permanent dodge. So that Master Yi is not going to be able to hit him. Kha'Zix's not going to be able to hit him with a lot of his stuff. Gnosis is not going to be able to Q him. The enemy AD carry is not going to be able to auto-attack him. So it's just straight up invulnerability against auto-attacks for 2 seconds, which obviously is a very, very big deal. Okay, I don't know. He primes his blade for 2 seconds, projecting protective zone around it for 1.5 seconds. So does that mean, I don't know exactly what this means. I think that might mean that it lasts for 3.75 seconds. So it does its thing for 2 seconds, and the thing lasts for 1.5 seconds, and it refreshes, I believe, so 3.75 seconds. I'm not really sure if it lasts for 1.75 or 3.75. But either way, it blocks everything that they're doing. So you obviously want to do this really close to someone that you want to protect. Usually your AD carry, when you're trying to peel off your AD carry. And it's very, very helpful to do that, especially against auto attackers. So it's not going to save them against, like, you know, a Veigar ult, but it will save them against a Twitch Massacre or like a Vayne pounding them down. So it's really good. This also makes you really good at split pushing, because split pushers are usually auto attack champions. It's usually going to be like a Fiora or something like that. I was able to duel a Xin Zhao, like, as a support, late game. Like, he had 4 items, and I was able to duel him as support Shen, largely because of the Spirit Refuge, and I just kept getting so many shields and empowering my attacks with this Twilight Assault, and I was just wearing him down. Now, he was probably messing something up, but it felt really, really strong for a support to duel somebody. So that's just another tool in your toolkit, which is good. The taunt's very nice. I mean, 1.75 second disable basically is a really big deal, especially early in the game. And this is why a lot of pros will play Shen lately, and why you'll see him in pro play is 1.75 is or 1.5 is a long time for a level 2 all-in. That's really big. I mean, an Alistar all-in is only going to be a 1 second knock-up. I think a Leona is only going to be like, I don't know exactly how long the E disables them for while they link on there, but it's not going to be much longer than a second. I know that I'm pretty sure the Q is a 1 second, is 1 second, and then the E is some, you know, small amount of time while she gets closer to him. Let's see. It's not 1.5 combined though. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's 1 second, and then the E is 0.5. Okay, so it is 1.5. So it's the same amount of time as a Leona E. You get the sunlight procs. Leona really, like, she can all in level 2, but she really wants to wait until 3 so she gets her Eclipse. So Shen kind of has one of the strongest level 2s in the game. You E onto them. You taunt them for 1.5 seconds, which is quite a lot. Does decent damage. Not amazing, but okay damage. And then this bad boy here, you know, 12% of their max health plus 45 damage. In addition to just empowering your 3 auto attacks. Don't forget, this is in addition to his auto attack. So at level 1, you know, he has high base damage of 60. You're hitting him 3 times with that. So that's 180, and you get 50% extra attack speed on that. That's 180 plus 12% of their max health plus 45. So it's 225 damage, 12% of their max health. If they have like 500 HP, is going to be like 60, I think, right? Yes, it's going to be 60 damage. So what I say, 220 plus 60, that's 280 damage at level 2. All in with the Shen. So that's a lot of damage. That's like half of somebody's health at level 2. And he's going to have this shield up, so he's not going to take a ton off of it. So that makes him really, really strong. He's comparable to Leona. It's not quite as hardcore as Leona's damage. And don't forget Aftershock. I don't know if I still have Aftershock pulled up here or not, which we'll talk about more with the runes here in a second. But yeah, Aftershock level 1 is going to be an additional 40s. That's 320 damage. Oh, and it's 3.5% of your max health. You're going to have like, you know, 700 or 800 health when you run him. So that's going to be an extra, you know, I don't know, 3.5 times 8, like 32, extra 32 damage, like 350 damage. It's just like an insane amount of damage at level 2 if you land that taunt and position your Q properly and start autoing him. So that gives him a lot of all-in potential early because this 1.5 second disable. And it also gives you, and this is what allows you to keep going, it gives you energy back. Whenever you hit somebody with your Shadow Dash, it recovers this much energy. Now, I think if this hits multiple people, it will recover multiple energy. And if your Q hits multiple people, it could recover multiple energy. I'm not 100% about that one. But it ends up giving you back a whole lot of energy. So like I said, I never had problems with energy. I was just positioning naturally, hitting as many people as I could with Shadow Dash and my Qs, and I just always had plenty of energy up because he has pretty long cooldowns on his abilities. And then finally, his most conspicuous ability, his ultimate, it's on a very long cooldown. It's a 200-second cooldown, but it allows him to teleport anywhere on the map and give an ally a decent shield. It's been nerfed a lot from what it used to be, but it's still a pretty decent shield. So that can be used for, obviously you can just use it on your own ally if they are about to get assassinated or something. You can use it to teleport to mid lane, jungle. You can split push and then teleport to a team fight. So you can run a 1-3-1 comp, which we'll talk about here in a second, where you have like your split pusher, you have your Jack split pushing top lane, you have 3 other people in the mid lane holding the tower, and then you can split push bot lane. And you can beat a lot of champions out. Like, you can beat quite a few, and except for the most hardcore of hardcore split pushers, you can do a pretty good job. Like I said, I beat out a Xin Zhao. I've seen videos of Shen beating out, like, Fioras who are behind in split push. So he can do a decent job with the split push. So that opens up some good options. This also allows you to roam and then not worry about your AD carry dying. So if you try to go roam and make a play mid lane, or you're trying to ward deep in their jungle and then your AD carry gets collapsed on, you can always ult back and get to them. And it gives you really good protection, especially against assassins. So something like a Zed, you can throw all the shields on him. You can do Locket, Face of the Mountain, and then ult him. And it's going to be almost impossible for someone to assassinate and burst down your AD carry through, like, you know, 1,000 HP worth of shields. And if you also have Knight's Vow on them. So there's just a lot of protection that you can give to single targets here, which is really nice. So yeah, that's pretty much Shen. So, and this thing also, his Shadow Dash, and this is one thing that separates him from someone like Alistar or Leona, is he can use this to get away, which is really important. This is another strength that I talked about in the Rakan video, is that allows him to ward deep very safely. So if we look at this, you know, a traditional problem is if you're trying to go in and get wards, like let's say you're walking through here as Alistar, you want to get a ward on their red. All of a sudden their jungler shows up. Maybe this was warded. You didn't see it. You come in here. Jungler's waiting on you. You know, the support's collapsed to help them out. Maybe the mid lane collapsed. And you just die. So if you're Alistar, you would be forced to ward shallow. If you don't have a sweeper here, you'd have to just assume this is warded, and you'd have to get more shallow wards. So you wouldn't get as good an intel on their jungle. However, as Rakan, as I talked about in the Rakan video, you can run around, somebody shows up here, you're probably going to get away. You can W, you know, over this wall or W over this wall. You're just very slippery. It's hard to keep track of you and lock you down. So that allows you to play a little bit more reckless, to get a little bit deeper wards. Right? Now, he's not as safe as Rakan, because Rakan can also jump to allies with his E. So Rakan's like the safest of the safe, if you play him correctly. But he's right up there with Rakan, Janna, champions like that. They're just really slippery. Because he can come through, you know, if he tries to ward, he can do the same thing. He can shadow dash over this wall. He can dash over this wall. So there's a lot of flexibility. Or if you really need to get to a hot situation, you can just get to places faster. Like, let's say they're about to take your tower down here. This blast plant's down. You can just walk over, shadow dash through the wall. Just get down there quicker instead of having to walk all the way around. So, just dashing through walls is just a really powerful effect. It also makes him safer in lane. You know? You're rolling up. Maybe you've got an Ezreal on your team, and you're positioned up a little bit further than you should be. And then that Shyvana comes running out from over here. If you're Alistar, you may not be able to escape. You might be like, well, oh crap, I'm caught. Alistar can headbutt to the, and I guess Leona can, you know, latch onto the person who's trying to gank from behind. But Shen has the ability to just shadow dash and get out of the situation. So he's just a little bit safer in lane than some of those other champions are. Or if, like, Pantheon's trying to drop right behind you, you know, you can clear a little bit more distance than you could with Alistar or Leona, potentially. So he's just a little bit safer in that aspect. So his crowd control, his engage, also doubles as a potential disengage. And that's something that a lot of tanks outside of Rakan just don't usually have. I mean, Nautilus can kind of do that by, you know, hooking onto walls to get away. Like Thresh, if he's kind of near a jungle, or, like, you know, he can hook onto raptors and get away. But both of those are a little bit dicier, you know. Nautilus can't go through walls with his hook, and Thresh has to have creeps around to get through. Whereas Rakan and Shen are a little bit less strings attached, just get out of jail free card a lot of times. So that's something that does make him pretty strong. Okay, so let's talk specifically, why is he good in this meta? So, okay, Shen has all these qualities about him. Well, why haven't we seen him for the last year? So what's changed? Why, you know, if he's so good, why haven't we seen him? You know, why didn't we see him at all in Season 7? And why is he just now emerging in Season 8? Well, several things have changed to make Rakan a useful pick now. So, number one, Aftershock is really, really good on him. Now, I do expect Aftershock to probably get nerfed. I would be surprised if it doesn't get nerfed in the next 2 patches or so. They might leave it. I think it'll still be good on him. Like, what I expect them to do is probably dial back the damage, make it scale over time, or make the bonus armor and magic resist based on your bonus armor and magic resist rather than your total armor and magic resist. So where did that... I don't remember where my rune... Was it? Oh, here we go, here we go. Okay, so if we look at Aftershock, this is what's making tanks really good right now, because they should probably also lower this cooldown. That would be another way they could do it. So they could make this like 30 seconds, or if they really want to punch this in the face, they could make it 40 seconds, just like they have Guardian. I personally think they should lower Guardian's cooldown to 30 seconds, and then increase the cooldown on Aftershock to 30 seconds, so they're at parity. But as it stands, it's 30% of your total armor goes into this, and this is why it's so good on things like Leona specifically, because her W gives her a lot of bonus armor and magic resist. And that also stacks with this. That stacks multiplicatively with this. So she gets over 100 armor at level 2. I talked about this, I think, yeah, I did a Leona guide already for Season 8. So go watch that if you're interested in that and why she's so strong right now. But this is pretty much it. That's a big part of it. So it's a really low cooldown. It makes you extremely tanky for 2.5 seconds. And, okay, that does not... Okay, that does not include a slow, so you have to hit your taunt. Just slowing them with your Q is not enough to proc this, so you really have to be able to hit your taunt to get this to proc. And it deals really heavy damage. So this really shouldn't be happening. 3.5% of your total health is a lot early on. I mean, someone like Shen, you know, when you take the Resolve Tree, you're going to get 140 extra health right now. And then he's going to be buying health items. He's going to get Targon's Brace. He's going to get Sightstone. So he's going to have a lot of health items early. And health is arguably the best stat in the game because every character wants it, and lots of characters scale with it. So it's really good against both physical damage and magic damage. So health is universally one of the best stats in the game, and this scales off of max health, and that's always really dangerous on anything to let it scale off of max health. And so, you know, if you have 800, what did I say, 32? Let me just double check my math. 28. Okay, so I was a little off on that. Okay, so 28 extra damage. I mean, 68 damage, level 1. Level 2, it's going to be 74 damage. I mean, let's just compare this to... Okay, so it makes you really tanky. It's on a 20-second cooldown. Let's compare this to Electrocute. We can just stick with the runes here. Where'd I put it? Here. Nope. There we go. Let's just compare this to Electrocute really quick while we're at it. So Electrocute is supposed to be the premier ability, right? So I did, what was that, 72, level 2? Let's look at this. So this is on a 50-second cooldown. Level 2, it's on a 49-second cooldown. So that's 2.5 times the cooldown of Aftershock early on. 50 base damage, and it scales on your bonus AD and bonus AP. Okay, you're not going to have a lot of AP early. You might have a little bit, but 0.3, you're not going to have a ton, right? So, you know, you might have, what, I don't know, 30 AP, maybe 40, depending on your champion. If you get a Doran's Ring, maybe like up, let's just say 50. Let's be really generous and say 50, right? So if you have 50, it's only going to be 15 damage. Aftershock was plus 28. Level 1. On a stat that's really good on you to begin with. I mean, AP is really good too, but like health is extremely good early game. And it does like half the damage even if you have 50 AP, which is a lot. If you have bonus AD, that's even harder to come by because there's just a lot less available early in the game. But remember, that's not your total AD, right? That's not the 60 AD that you start with, you know, with your AD carry. This is bonus AD. So, you know, if you're a Talon mid lane, I don't even know what Talon would start with. Just a champion that starts with Doran's Blade, you're only going to have 8 bonus AD, and then, I don't even know, like, you're going to get 10 off of Sorcery, maybe? You're going to get, like, 9 extra damage on this or something. So there's no world where this is going to be more damage than Aftershock, right? Early on. So Aftershock's dealing, like, 72 damage. This, in, like, the best case scenario, you know, this might deal 72 damage. So if you get to 12 plus damage at level 2, I suppose, you know, you might get close to that damage. Wait, was that even... It seems like that's low, because we were getting 28 plus 28. Yeah, that's right. It's 74 damage. So, similar. Similar damage, early game. We'll just call it similar damage. But you get this huge extra bonus to your armor and magic resist, and it's only on a 20-second cooldown. And that's the problem, is it's dealing the same damage that the Premier, and you only have to hit somebody with a crowd control. You don't have to hit them with 3 different abilities to trigger this. So it's even easier to trigger. You just simply hit them with 1 crowd control ability. Now, yes, they can run away. It takes 2.5 seconds before it blows up. But you have, like, the premier, like, damage-dealing rune that's harder to trigger, that's on 2.5 times the cooldown, and Aftershock does just as much damage and gives you tankiness, and is on a much lower cooldown. What? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, Aftershock should not be that strong. It should not both make you that tanky, have that low of a cooldown, and deal that much damage. One of those is going to get nerfed. But anyways, Shen is a great abuser of that, because he has this repeatable shield that also scales with bonus health. So he wants a lot of bonus health. Aftershock wants a lot of bonus health. So you just stack a lot of bonus health on him, and boom, Aftershock's going to be dealing a ton of damage. He's going to be getting huge shields off of this. And the extra armor and magic resist scales on your shield. So if you have, you know, 100 armor, then it's basically going to take 100% more damage to break this shield. So if you have 100 armor, you know, at level 3, and you're getting a shield for, whatever, 56 plus 14% of your bonus health, is what, like 70? If you have 700, that'd be 70. So that's 126 times 2 is effectively a 252 damage shield, because you're getting all that armor. And remember that the shields benefit from your armor. It treats it as though it's health. So they have to crack through the armor to get to your shield to then get to your normal health. So it just makes you, like, unkillable early on. So it's about as bad as Leona is early on in terms of trying to kill him through Aftershock. So every time that's up, every 20 seconds, he can go in for a taunt, and his key barrier is also going to be up, and just deal massive damage and get away with very little damage dealt back onto him. And if he does get damage, well, that's fine, because he's going to be running Targon's Brace. He's going to heal through it, and then his AD carry is probably also going to be running Targon's. We'll talk about that here in a second. And he's going to have Second Wind. So he's just going to have so much innate sustain in addition to all of these shields. You're just never going to crack through this guy early game. So that's a big part of why he's good, is Aftershock is really good on him because of his key barrier, and because it scales really well with plus HP, which is something that he wants to get anyways. Okay? Another thing is that, and I'm going to speed up a little bit here. I don't want this guide to take forever, but I do want to explain this stuff, because I've been watching some guides on this. I've been watching some gameplay with Shen, and people just don't explain this stuff very well. So that's why I'm trying to break it down for you, so you really understand not just, oh, a bunch of pros are playing him, but why they're playing him, why potentially he could be really good. So sorcery supports have also been nerfed a lot. Ares been nerfed, Mana Flow's been nerfed, Celerity's nerfed, Scorch is nerfed, and just the sorcery tree itself, the base AP that you get off it, has been nerfed. So they have just gutted sorcery supports, like just gutted them. And they nerfed like the big poke champions early. So like Sona has been nerfed like 3 or 4 times. She's just been completely beaten down. And she was very dangerous because she could harass you early, and then she also outscaled you late, and so you really only had this small window in the mid game where she had completed her first item but not yet her second item, where you could really exploit her. And so she's been completely gutted. And then other champions that could also put up some good harassment early on, such as Zyra or Lulu, like these champions have been nerfed as well because of the Mana Flow, Celerity, Scorch, all this stuff has been nerfed. So people are still playing some poke champions. You'll still see some Xerath. You might still see some Zyra. But they're really not going to do enough to get through, you know, all of your sustain that you're going to have in this lane. And now, I might do a separate video about this. There are videos out there. I think Phylol just released a pretty decent video on this. The double Targon overheal lane, which is what everyone's going to be doing in pro play probably, if you remember the Targon lanes of yesteryear, you know, like 2 years ago. That's kind of coming back, and they just buffed Overheal, and people are figuring this out. So let me show you like what's up with this really quickly. Now, one thing that Firewall forgot to mention is that Targon's now gives you Bandit, and that is the big deal here. So this is something that they changed in the preseason. New effect, Bandit. So 7.22, they gave it Bandit. So this means that if your AD carry has this, whenever they attack an enemy, so an enemy champion, so they attack the support or they attack the other AD carry, then they're going to get 3 gold. Okay, now that doesn't sound like a lot, and you get 1 gold for each nearby minion killed by an ally, which doesn't apply as much to you, but you do get the 3 gold. It has a 5-second per target cooldown, but even if you only attack somebody, you know, maybe 10 times or something during the laning phase. I mean, I guess that's generous. Even 5 times, it's still 15 gold per 5. In addition to just naturally having, I think it has 2 gold per 10. Or not 15 per 5, but 15 per minute. I think, right? Or am I just losing my mind? Just say you attack them 10 times for easy math. Okay, that'd be 30 extra gold per minute. And you get 2 here, so that's 36 extra gold per minute, which is a lot. I mean, if you think you're in your laning phase for 5 minutes before your first back, that's 180 gold. That's a pretty big deal early on. And Relic Shield has Bandit too, so you don't even have to upgrade it to get the Bandit. Right? So that makes this item very, very gold efficient on 80 carries. Because now you have Bandit. It didn't used to... I'm pretty sure it did not give Bandit. Bandit was a mastery in the previous season that 80 carries never got, but now they put it on the gold items, specifically on Relic Shield, and now you get the extra gold off a Bandit. So you get 200 gold worth of health on it. You get the Bandit, which, you know, after 5 minutes is worth 180, and boom, right there it pays for itself. Right? As we just saw. And it shares gold with your support, which allows them to power up much faster. It allows them to get their Sightstone faster, to get their Knight's Vow faster, their Locket faster, Redemption faster, Ardent Censer faster. They just get everything faster. And it heals you. They added this too for 2% of your missing health every time you kill a minion, which is a really big deal. And then Targon's Brace, which is a pretty good value, you know, once you upgrade it. The cooldown goes lower so that you can give your support even more gold, help them get even more teamfight items, and it gives you this awesome shield. So you still get the Bandit as well, you get more health, you get more base regen, and you get the shield. Which shields you, you know, by the time you complete this, your first back, it'll shield you for like 275, which is a lot. I mean, 80 carries don't have a lot of health, and so you get this shield for the 275, which once again is a lot of health. I mean, if you think of that in terms of gold value, 275 times 2.66, that's a 730 value. 730 value gold. 730 gold value for this thing. In addition to giving you the just standard health and all this extra money you're giving your support, you get this. And then if you get Overheal, which has become a lot more popular since they nerfed Triumph. Like, Triumph is still good, 12%. But they also buffed Overheal. So now you can heal, or you can get a shield for up to 10% of your maximum health. Targon's gives you bonus health. So now, you know, once you get to, you know, 1,000 HP, which is really easy to get to, then all of a sudden you can get 110 extra shield on top of that shield. So that 110 extra shield is going to give you a 266 gold value. And they increased the conversion rate up to 40% from 30%. This includes healing from Targon, so when you get healed off of your own Targons, and when your ally heals you from their Targons. So when they heal you off of their Targons, you get a 300% charge on your shield. Now it says it only lasts for 6 seconds, but whenever you attack the minion wave, it says dealing damage will refresh the duration for 6 seconds. So as long as you're in your lane just attacking your minion wave, this will charge up. And then once you get it to maximum charge, boom, just go in and trade with the enemy. Knock off their health, you knock off your shield, and then boom. You suddenly win a lot of trades. So that's what is making Overheal really powerful, is that combined with Targon's ends up giving you a lot of shield. You know, like a 500-600 shield. Like that's like 25% more health in the mid game. And so the fact that makes Shen even better, because he's going to have Targon, so he's going to contribute to the overheal, but then also he can't get poked out as much. When your AD carry is healing you off of their Targons constantly, and you have second wind, and you have your own Targons, just heal or poke is irrelevant. So it doesn't matter what the Nami's doing to you. It doesn't matter, you know, what Janna and Karma are doing to you, or Xerath or Zyra or whatever. You're just going to heal through it. And so is your AD carry. So that's what's making these all-in champions, these all-in tanks, really powerful. And he's, you know, he benefits from that very heavily, because one of the big problems of Shen historically is, like, he just sits there and doesn't do anything in lane a lot of the time, especially if, you know, they kind of stay out of range of your taunt, and he can get poked out. He doesn't have a lot of sustain. Well, now he does. So that's something that's Season 8 specific with Targons, with Overheal, that, and with Second Wind, that has made him a lot more viable than he has been in the past. Manaless tank, we talked about that, so you get better itemization. You don't have to get mana items. You have a lot more endurance for the Clown Fiesta. You have a lot more gank safety. Talked about that. From Leona and Alistar, you can use your E to escape. You have the 1-3-1 split option. We talked about that, where you can have a side lane and your top laner can have a side lane, and then you can easily get back to your team. Really high sustained damage for a tank in fights. I think he has the highest sustained damage of any support tank that I can think of. I mean, it's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage in an extended fight. You know, I ran the numbers for you, I think, a little bit ago, but, I mean, it's 18... Doesn't it get up to 18% of their max health? Yeah, 18% of their max health, 50% bonus attack speed, so that you can apply that much faster, and you do that 18% every 5 seconds for CDR. With CDR, it's going to be like 3 seconds. So, like, every 3 seconds, you can do 18% of their max health, in addition to just hitting them, you know, and dealing your normal attack damage a lot more. So he just cranks through people. He does a lot of damage. So he does way more damage than Leona, and certainly Alistar late game. Like, Leona can match him up early game, but she has really long cooldowns, and her autos don't really hurt that much. She's very cooldown dependent. But this Q is up all the time. And just trust me, Shen does a truckload of damage. Late game, as a support tank, I was shocked when I was playing him. I was like, oh my god, I had so many kills. I mean, let me pull this up really quick. I didn't actually see my damage chart there. But, like, I was just murdering everything. I'm, like, full support. I have no damage items. I had 8 kills. I was 8-2 and 22. And we were not completely, like, steamrolling this game. I think it was pretty close for a lot of the time. Let's see here. Wait, where's... Is it... Okay, it does show my damage on there. Alright, so maybe it's not, like, as, like, catastrophic, you know, as much damage as you would think. But still, like, for a tank, 17,000 damage... You know, it was getting close to the Twitch. Now, Twitch was having a hard time that game, obviously. But, I mean, Teemo's just going to do a lot of damage just because of the nature of his mushrooms and his poke, right? Orianna's going to do a lot of damage in team fights. But, still, that's pretty respectable. That's more than their Zen. That's approaching the level of their Ashe and their Garen. In these games. So, I mean, it's pretty good. Like, I'm just telling you, I was able to solo the Zen. I mean, the Zen has good items. Like, he had a lot of damage. He had, like, Warrior, Trinity, Sterix when I was fighting him. I mean, he does very, very respectable damage. So that's something that sets him apart, too, is he has very good scaling with damage for a tank. I mean, obviously, he's not going to do as much as a Brand or a Zyra in team fights, but the fact that he's unkillable and has all that other utility and does damage is very rare. Very rare. I mean, that's kind of harkening back to, like, the old school, like, Trundle, you know, who could get quite a bit of damage, like old school Trundle with, like, a, you know, Iceborne Gauntlet when he stole all of the stats off of, you know, their main tank. He could do some pretty good damage. It's kind of like that, only better. Okay, and he actually has pretty respectable peel. At first glance, it doesn't look like he has as much peel as something like an Alistar or a Leona, but he actually kind of does. I mean, his E is on a relatively low cooldown. It's on a 10-second cooldown. It can hit multiple targets, 1.5 second CC. His Q has that 2-second slow for 35%. It's pretty good. That's equivalent to a Janna W, effectively. And then his W, of course, basically makes your AD carry invulnerable from somewhere between 2 to 3.5 seconds, depending on whatever that grammar means. And that horribly worded sentence. I mean, can I get some confirmation on this? If there is no ally within the zone, it will not activate for 2 seconds or until an ally comes into range. Okay, so it gives them the buff for 1.5 seconds. 1.75 seconds. Either way, it basically makes people invulnerable to auto attacks for a long time, which is a really nice peel as well. So overall, I think that's why he's legit really strong right now. So his best strengths are great mobility, great itemization, very tanky, good CC, excellent roaming, split pushing, respectable damage. Some of his weaknesses are his limited access to the enemy back line, so it's really hard to get on that twitch or on that vein. Like, you have to hit him with a taunt. You can flash taunt, but it's a lot harder to get to him than it would be with like a Leona R or just an Alistar headbutt combo or a Rakan ult W. So he's not the greatest for engage. He's a much better peeler. He can engage, but he's not the greatest at it. He has a pretty slender hitbox on the E, so, you know, if the enemy's paying attention, they can dodge it fairly easily, even with just a sidestep. He has very moderate scaling, so his damage is nice, but he doesn't have the same kind of scaling as like a plus healing and shielding champion, so he's going to get outscaled probably by like a Janna or a Taric or a Lulu. Just these other things that are really amplifying their AD carry will probably, you know, end up outscaling you. So if you're picking Shen into something like a Lulu Twitch or like a Lulu Kog'Maw, you're going to have a pretty hard time late game if you've got like a Misfortune, because you're not going to be able to get on the Twitch or the Cog, most likely, not that easily. And Lulu, once she starts getting Ardent Sensor and Redemption and all of these plus healing and shielding items, she's just going to outscale you most of the time. So that is kind of an issue. And then he has some tough matchups against enchanters, like I just mentioned. So like Janna, Soraka, Lulu, Rakan are pretty tough because they all are going to use the plus healing and shielding stat. So he personally does quite a bit of damage if he gets to stick to people and do auto attacks. But he's going to be getting peeled by, you know, the Janna. And Lulu's going to be able to heal through any damage that you're dealing, most likely. Or Soraka, rather. So he's pretty good, but he does have weaknesses. He's not, like, supremely overpowered, but he's pretty dang good. Okay, so let's talk about runes really quickly. We'll move on. We'll see if we can keep this hour and 15 minutes. Aftershock, hit on that a lot. Super overpowered. You just have to get this. Probably going to be nerfed at some point. But very good. And he's good paired with someone who can kill people early games. Like Misfortune, Jhin, Draven, Callista. Like, he can still, you know, rock it with like a Vayne or a Twitch or something like that. But he's obviously better with, you know, once he chunks out half their health at level 2 for someone who can do the other half and finish them off. Demolish is a pretty good pick. There isn't an extremely good pick at the second rune slot for him. Like, there's not a very obvious pick. So I say Demolish because that helps you out if you want to split, and if you manage to run the enemies out of the lane, which is likely early on, then you're going to be able to get a little bit more chip damage on the tower. Font of Life is okay. Like, this is much better if you're an Ardent Sensor champion, because then the heal off of Font will also trigger Ardent Sensor, so that's a really nice interaction. I mean, you do stack a lot of health, though, so maybe Font of Life, you know, whenever you taunt somebody, impairing the movement of an enemy. Okay, so that does include slows. So, I mean, impairing the movement with your Q, you can hit multiple targets with that, and you can keep that up on people most of the time. And if you have, you know, late game, if you have like 3,000 health, which is not that hard to get to, with Shen, then, you know, they'd be healing for like 35 on hit, which is quite a lot, so, on multiple people. So maybe that's worth. I don't know. I mean, you can't really go wrong with a lot of these. I'm not a huge fan of unflinching. Like, you can do that for each summoner spell on cooldown. Like, you can gain 10% tenacity. You know, 20% tenacity. That's pretty good. I'd just rather have more damage to towers and more healing. So I think either Font or Demolish can be pretty good options in theory. Demolish is going to be better for splitting, and then Font, of course, is going to be better for team fights. So it's kind of up to you. If you think there are going to be some really long fights, which is Shen likes that. Remember, this doesn't heal you also, Font of Life, so don't think that it heals you. Then that might be a pretty good option if you think there are going to be some pretty long fights. If you think it's just going to be a Clown Fiesta and you just want to take towers as fast as possible, just go with Demolish, and that's what I usually pick for Shen. On someone like Rakan, I definitely want Font of Life, but on Shen, probably Demolish. Conditioning is the best one here. It's the best value. You're already going to be super tanky early on with Aftershock and just your natural kit, so I think conditioning's fine, but if it's going to be a lane or it's going to be really hardcore early on, like maybe you're really scared of the Zyra for some reason, or maybe, you know, they have a Caitlyn and you just think you're going to constantly be getting auto-attacked and just poked out, then, you know, maybe you could go Iron Skin or Mirror Shell if you're just kind of scared. But I think conditioning is overall pretty much the best choice. And then second wind is pretty much always what you want to take. So after taking damage from enemy champion, you heal for a lot. And I did the math here for you. Basically, if you're missing 200 HP, it's 1.4 HP per second. Give or take. And then, you know, it's about 84 HP per minute. It pretty much comes out to somewhere between like 1.5 to 2 Reju beads, which is, you know, between like 225 gold value and 300 gold value. So that's really, really nice in the early game. And it makes, you know, poke from champions like Nami, Sona, Karma, Lulu, Zyra just almost irrelevant, especially with the double Targons that I talked about before. So it just gives you a free pass in the laning phase. It's a lot of healing. It's a lot of healing. So that's very nice. Now, sometimes people ask about Overgrowth. I just feel like it's too slow. So 8 monsters or enemy minions that die near you. 8's a very strange number, because that means it's not every wave. So every wave is going to be 6 or 7 minions. A cannon wave's going to have 7. So, you know, it's going to be 6.5 or so per wave. So that means that every minute it's going to be 13, because a wave comes every 30 seconds. So, and the first wave, I don't remember exactly when it comes out. They changed the timing on it a little bit. I think it comes out at 1:30 and arrives at 2 minutes, right? I think it's something like that. Anyways, within like the first 10 minutes of when waves keep hitting, you have 10 times 13 equals this. That number of minions divided by 8, 16.25 for the first 10 minutes, times, or divided by 5, because you get 1/5 of a percentage every time. Then to give you 3.25% of your max health. Now, I'm not sure how that stacks. I think that includes your bonus health and your standard health. So 3.25% of your max health. So let's say that, you know, in the first 10 minutes you get to, you know, 1200 HP. It's going to be like 39 health. It's like 103 gold value. So, you know, by like 12 minutes, this is assuming you're there for every single minion that dies. Which you're going to back, you're going to roam, you're going to go ward, you're going to do a lot of stuff where you're not in lane seeing every single minion that dies. So, you know, by 12 minutes into the game, you're going to have about 103 gold value off of that. Now, if you go another 10 minutes, let's say that you're getting to 6.5% of your max health, so now we're getting into like, you know, somewhere between 22 to 25 minutes, realistically, before this triggers, 6.5% of your max health, and let's say that your max health is around 200, or 2,000 rather. Now you're getting 130, That's about a 340 gold value. So even at like 24 minutes into the game, in kind of a rosy scenario where you're seeing a lot of the minions and like you're able to itemize and get up to 2,000 health, which is pretty hefty at like 25 minutes. You're doing very well in the game if that happens. It's still only a 345 gold value into the game. Second Wind, as I just talked about right here, starting from like level 1, potentially, is going to give you somewhere between 225 and 300 gold value. And this thing, you know, even at 25 minutes into the game is only going to give you a 350 gold value. So yeah, it's more valuable like 25 to 30 minutes in the game, but it takes forever to get there. Like, it's going to take a really long time to get to that point in the game. I'd rather just secure my early game, just have this extra poke. I mean, this scales too, you know, as you're missing more and more health later in the game, you're going to regen more and more over time off of that rune. So it's not like, you know, Second Wind goes out of style too. This also scales over time. I just talked about early game. You know, when you have like 2,000 health, plus 4% you're missing health, and you're missing like 1,600 health, then you're going to be getting a lot of regen over time. So, you know, it's going to scale up to even a higher value as well. I'd argue probably in a lot of fights, the regen off of that, it just depends on how fast the fights are. But the bottom line is this is just too slow. Like, it looks nice, it looks attractive, but it's just too slow. Even in the rosiest of rosy scenarios, it's not going to outpace the value of Second Wind. If it ever does, it's not even going to start to approach the value of Second Wind until like 25 minutes into the game. So you always want to take Second Wind. And then Revitalize is just kind of off the table. It does help you with your own healing and shielding. I mean, it does apply to your ult, does apply to your passive. So that's nice, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough. I don't think. I think I'd have to do the math on it. I'm pretty sure Second Wind is just better. Unless you're a champion that does a lot of healing and shielding like a lot, like a Janna or a Soraka or a Rakan or something like that. This just isn't going to be worth it. It's great on Rakan. It's great on those champions. Just Second Wind is just going to be better. Okay. Ingenious Hunter plus Zombie Ward. I talk about this pretty much every every guide, every stream, everywhere, because this is something that is dramatically under-talked about and underutilized by a lot of supports out there, even the pros. This is really good, okay? This combination is crazy. So if we look at Ingenious Hunter, it's 10% active item CDR and then 6% per bounty. So that is by takedowns. That is a kill or an assist. You don't have to get the kill. Assists also count on people. So you can get up to 40% active item CDR. This applies to trinkets. Okay, this gives you such strong vision control. If you combine this with Ruby Sightstone, which everyone's already getting. Like, you're already getting Ruby Sightstone virtually every single game, and you're getting 3 active items. As I mentioned before, right, you're getting Locket, you're getting Face of the Mountain, and you're getting Knight's Vow pretty much every game, most of the time. That's 3 item actives. Every single item has an active at that point. And it applies to your sweeper. So the sweeper, I think I have the math here. Yeah, your sweeper is a 76-second cooldown. And then with Ingenious Hunter plus Ruby Sightstone, it goes to a 30-second cooldown with a 60% off. It sweeps for 10 seconds. The cooldown starts when you start the sweep. So by the time it's done sweeping, it's on cooldown for 20 seconds. So that means every 20 seconds you have a 10-second uptime on your sweepers. That means for like 1/3 of the game, after you complete Ruby Sightstone and you get all your takedowns and all that stuff, you can just constantly sweep. It's like you always have an old school Oracles. It makes it almost impossible for the enemy to keep any vision on the map whatsoever because you're always sweeping. And with Shen, you can go in their jungle and sweep pretty safely because if they try to come and stop you, you just shadow dash away over a wall. So he's kind of like Rakan in that you can be a little riskier and clear out some dangerous wards with Shen. So that's nutty. And you know what's really good when you sweep a ward is to get an extra ward. Look at that. And there, it's in the same tree. How convenient. Whenever you sweep a ward with Ingenious Hunter, which you will do all the time, and you also happen to get zombie wards. And zombie wards give you a free ward for 2.5 minutes. Or 3 minutes, actually. It's even longer than a normal ward. And that's just insane, and it doesn't count towards your ward count. So it's conceivable when you go through and sweep and you're just constantly zombieing wards across the map. Like, I've had something like 15 wards on the map before. That's like Season 2 level of warding, which was great, but you used to have to pay gold for that. Now it's free. You get free wards everywhere. Just think of it like it's 75 gold every time this happens. Just think of how many wards you kill. So you get the gold for killing the ward, which is usually, depending on the type of ward that it is, it's like 30 gold. And then you get a free 75 gold. Because you get a ward there. Now, yes, they can go and clear it out, but they have to go check the bush to clear it. Or they have to just go in that area to clear it, which is really dangerous when they don't have vision because you just swept the vision. So it makes it really hard for them to go in and clear out these zombie wards if you have really strong vision on the map, if you're denying their vision, which you are if you have that much sweeper off of the Ingenious Hunter. So you're really getting like 100 gold value every time you sweep a ward when you put a zombie ward down. Now, yes, there is redundant vision sometimes. You know, they're gonna try to ward a place that already has a pink, and then you're gonna clear it, and the zombie ward's gonna be there. So yeah, there's redundant vision. But you know, if you kill 12 wards, if you estimate on average, maybe they're worth about 100 gold each, and you're gonna kill a lot more than 12 with this build, unless they're just straight up not warding. That's like a 1,200 gold value. I mean, we were just sitting here, you know, splitting hairs because, you know, just trying to compare, okay, well, what about, you know, what about Second Wind? Is it worth 300 gold? You know, when is Overgrowth worth 350 gold? Zombie Ward, a very simple a very simple setup there that I just talked about. It's over 1,000 gold, right? If you kill 13 wards, that's about a 1,300 gold value. So, it's really, really good. And then obviously, you know, vision in general is just so strong because the enemy, they don't know if you're doing Baron. They don't know if you're doing Dragon. They don't know if you're waiting in random bushes. They don't know anything about what you're doing because they're never going to have any wards on the map. And you're going to have wards everywhere. It's like you have a permanent map hack on with zombie wards. So, very, very good synergy. And then Ingenious just happens to have a lot of synergy with everything else you're going to get too. So Face of the Mountain goes to a 24-second cooldown. Locket of the Iron Solari goes to a 36-second cooldown. That's a lot. That's like every minion wave. You can cast Locket or you can cast Face of the Mountain. Banner of Command, if you choose to get that item, we'll talk about it here in a second. 48-second cooldown. That's like every wave and a half you can use Banner of Command. Knight's Vow, I believe, is 90 seconds base. If I still have it pulled up or not. I'll get Leona out of there. I don't have it pulled up, but I think Knight's Vow is a 90 seconds, so it's going to be a 36-second cooldown. And you might think, well, who cares about Knight's Vow, right? Like, you just put it on your partner and that's the end of the story. Well, not if you're roaming. So, if you try to roam, let's say you go roam mid lane, right? You do a taunt. It's kind of a close fight. You throw a Knight's Vow on your mid laner, you win the fight. And then all of a sudden, you know, 20 seconds later, your bot lane gets engaged on. And you start running down there, and by the time you get down there, you don't have Knight's Vow anymore. Whereas, if you had the Ingenious Hunter plus Ruby Sightstone, then it would have only been on a 36-second cooldown. So you might be able to show up and put a Knight's Vow on somebody else 30 seconds later, and make a huge difference in that fight. This is particularly important with Shen when he can ult somewhere and then immediately once he shows up put a Knight's Vow on somebody and pock all of his shields. Right? He can use his W, his Locket, his Face of the Mountain. He can pop all that stuff to try to save somebody. So it's really nice to have that Knight's Vow up a lot. And don't forget that's responsible for a lot of your self-tankiness too. If you're not near your partner, you're going to lose a lot of armor, you're going to lose movement speed, and you're going to lose the 12% healing that you get from your partner and the 12% damage transference. So it's really nice to be able to switch partners a lot with Knight's Vow so that you can always be as efficient as possible. So Knight's Vow doesn't seem like it's really important for the cooldown, but it is. It's very, very nice to have it off cooldown more often. So this just naturally slots into what Shen wants to do. He already buys 3 item actives, so he's not going out of his way at all to get this. And it's extreme vision control, and it's just very good for the Fiesta because all this stuff's going to be off cooldown. So what are you giving up for that? Well, you're giving up magical footwear, which is nice. You do get ward, or you do get, you know, about a 400 gold value off of that, off of the free boots, off of the extra speed that you get. Now, that means you can't get boots early, and boots are very good on Shen, so that he can position properly to try to land some of those taunts. But magical footwear is great. And Hex Flash is the big one. A lot of top-tier players really like Hex Flash because you can Hex Flash out of bushes and taunt people. I think it's kind of gimmicky. You know, if they have good vision control, then they're going to see you in that bush. You're not going to have as good a vision control if you don't have Zombie Ward and Ingenious Hunter. So it's more likely the bush is going to be warded. It's cute. It's gimmicky. But I think at his core, Shen is more of a peeler. He shouldn't be the core initiate in a lot of fights. Like, it's nice in the laning phase, but, you know, his kit is more designed to peel most of the time. It's very easy to dodge his Shadow Dash, like when you're trying to go max distance, unless you flash on him. And then, you know, you want your W to be around squishy targets. Like, you want to protect your AD carry with your W. You want to protect your AD carry with your slow off of your Q. Like, he's much better as a peeler brawler type of champion than an initiate. If you want to play an initiate champion, just play Blitzcrank or play Rakan or play Alistar or Leona. Like, he can initiate, but he's just not as good at it as those champions. And so I think it's a cute interaction, Hex Flash plus taunt, but I think you're just giving up too much. You're giving up way too much vision control by not having Zombie Ward, and you're just giving up a lot of really nice interactions from Ingenious Hunter. So I wouldn't do it, but it's up to you. That's what a lot of pro players will do. Almost none of them are using Domination. Is this guy doing it? This guy is Zombie Ward and Cheap Shot. Cheap Shot is not worth Ingenious Hunter, not in my mind. You do a little bit more damage after you taunt somebody early on. It's all in, you know, level 1, level 2 if you're going Cheap Shot. I just think a lot of people are sleeping on Ingenious. I mean, so that's where I differ. He's got it. Race got it figured out. But yeah, I think that's something that people just are really slow to adopt. But I think that it is really good. Anyways, let's go ahead and roll on here. Okay, so items. Standard build's going to be Face them Out, Ninja Tabi, or Ionian boots. I mean, you can go Mercs too. Like, he's pretty flexible on his boots. Do not go Ninja Tabi or Mobility boots. It's not worth it. You're not a roam. Like, you can roam, but you want to be as tanky as you possibly can be. And just put your head down and sit there and auto attack. There are a lot of champions where I tell you don't do this. In my Leona guide, I say after you do all of your stuff, you go in and CC, get out of there. Like, do not stay in there and auto attack because your auto attacks don't do any damage and you're just going to take a lot of free collateral damage. With Shen, no, you do want to stand in there and auto attack because his auto attacks actually hurt quite a lot, especially with his Q spam, and you constantly get more shields from hitting people with your Qs, with your key barrier. Your W can protect you while you stay in there and attack. So Shen is the exception. He does want to stand in there and auto attack. So that means that you need big kid boots. You need Ninja Tabi most of the time. Ionian boots are very nice because with this build, you're only going to have 20% CDR. You're only going to have CDR off of Knight's Vow and Face of the Mountain, because Locket and Ruby Sightstone don't give you CDR, and obviously CDR is very good on him. He has very powerful cooldowns. He has his ult, he has his taunt, just everything is really nice in his kit, but they have long cooldowns. So Ionian is sweet if you're not too afraid of the damage. If you are the primary tank, if you're going to be the one diving towers for your team, or if you're going to be the one tanking Baron, you're going to need Ninja Tabi. Okay, so Ninja Tabi's the standard, but Ionian boots are nice. Ruby Sightstone, we've talked about it a lot. Very powerful interaction. Knight's Vow, good. Locket, good. And then the final item slot is kind of variable. You can... I like Banner of Command. It gives you extra split push pressure. You could also go ZZ Rock Portal if you really want to. I think Banner is a little bit better most of the time. It does have that coveted CDR on it, which is nice. It can affect much longer lanes. You could actually pressure 2 lanes at once as Shen. If you don't have a really good split push on your team, you could banner 1 lane and then go split push the other lane as Shen. Another option I've been thinking of exploring is going the old top lane Shen build and getting a Titanic Hydra. Let me talk about the other items just really quickly first, sort of why they are what they are, and then I'll talk about Titanic, and then it'll probably be the end of the video. Yeah, we're getting up there. Okay, so Ionian, CDR, very good. Talked about that. Pretty standard. Ninja Tabi is what you want. Ionian is the greedy build if you're not afraid of their damage. They have a pretty low damage team, or if your team's just really far ahead. Ruby. People go Ruby a lot of time. It's very gold efficient. A lot of people have kind of lost sight of Ruby over the last year, but it's a really, really gold efficient item. I mean, if we look at it, you know, you're paying... Sightstone has 150 health. This has 500 health, so you're getting 350 health. So right there, you're paying 800 gold for 930 gold worth of health, so it's very efficient. And you're getting 20% item active, CDR. You're going to have 3 active items, even if, regardless, if you go Ingenious Hunter or not, you're still going to have 3 active items most of the time. And you're going to get that 4th ward, so it's very nice. Now, it does delay some of your other items, because if you finished, you know, if you just went Eye of the Equinox or something instead, you can finish that in 2,300 gold. So then you could just complete that and move on to bigger items faster. But this is such a nice item. Eye of the Equinox is a pretty bad value proposition. It's 2,300 gold, which just feels really bad. That's so much gold. And Face of the Mountain is such a good value, especially with Ruby. So if we look at, I don't know if I have Face pulled up here or not. We look at Face of the Mountain. It's only 2,200 gold. You're already going to have Targons. It gives you the 10% CDR in the health, which is a pretty good bargain. And then this gives both you and your partner a 10% max health shield. So when you have 2,000, you know, health, kind of in the mid game, it's going to give you a 200 health shield and your ally a 200 health shield. And it slows nearby enemies for 2 seconds for 40%, which is good. And then it's on a 60-second cooldown. So with Ingenious plus Ruby, then it's going to be a 24-second cooldown. So that's just going to be up almost all the time. And that shield is really nice for saving your AD carry, particularly against assassins, because when they have their Targon shield, they have their overheal shield, and then you're shielding them with Face of the Mountain, then it's going to be really difficult for that Zed in the mid game, or the Rengar, or the Syndra, or whatever, to zero out your AD carry. So it's just very nice. And the stats on it are pretty good. You know, you have 450 health, you got that CDR, you got... And this is one thing that's also important about Face. Whenever you upgrade to that tier 4 gold item, then you actually can generate more gold over time, and that's different from other items. So if you look at Frost Queens, it always just goes to 3 maximum charges. If you look at coin is always maximum 40 gold starting at the tier 2 coin. This actually gives you a 4th charge once you complete it. This is why people will complete this item fairly quickly a lot of times. It's because it gives you those 4 charges. Because you're not going to use every charge at 30 seconds on the dot, because you're going to have to back, you're going to have to ward, you're going to have to rotate. So this gives you a lot more flexibility to really maximize your gold output with that item. So that makes Face plus Ruby a really good combination for Shen. The extra health off of Ruby scales really nicely with the bonus shield that you get here. And the CDR reduction off of Ruby also scales with the shield. So that you're going to have the shield up more often. So they just have a lot of synergy with each other, going Face of the Mountain plus Ruby. In addition to Equinox just being a pile of garbage because it's 2,300 gold instead of 2,200 gold, like the Eye of the Watchers, or 1,900 gold like Eye of the Oasis. So this is just a lot more gold efficient. It's a lot better for timings. So that's why Ruby's really popular. It also is very good with the sweep plus zombie combo I've talked about before. It gives you a lot more vision control with your sweeper to get that Ruby really quickly, and it's going to give you more vision as well. So you deny vision and get vision. Okay, Face. Just talked about that. Pretty sweet. Knight's Vow. Now, Knight's Vow has about the same tank stats and valuation as Banner. I've talked about that in other videos. But the bonus health is really nice for Locket and for just Shen's passive in general. His passive and his taunt both scale off of his maximum HP, so he really likes HP, and it scales with Face of the Mountain and Locket that I just mentioned. So the bonus health is really, really good. Banner doesn't have health on it, and the 12% damage block is great. You know, you get to redirect 12 damage over to you, and you get healing. So your AD carry, you know, if they just keep cranking out the damage and you just keep sitting in there tanking damage, then you're going to keep getting healed for a ton. So it's really nice, and it goes down to a 36-second cooldown with Ingenious Hunter. Locket is another one that's good. You don't want to rush Locket because its stats are garbage without the active. So if you look at the stats on Locket, it's only 76% efficient, which is really bad. But it scales really nice with your bonus health. So, you know, around level 11, when you're looking at 22% of your bonus health, if you have, you know, 1,000 bonus health, which if you have Locket plus Face of the Mountain, that right there is 950 bonus health, and you're going to get 140 off of your Resolve tree, so that's going to put you over 1,000. So if you go Ruby, Face, Locket is an option. Then, you know, by, what does it say, level 10 for easy math, you get 20%, 1,000 HP, that's a 200 shield. In addition to having a 258 base shield, that's a 458 shield on your whole team, which is really good. That's going to be on a 36-second cooldown. So, that is very good. Even if they don't have a lot of magic users, just getting this strictly for that shield in a team fight can be quite powerful, especially when it's on that low of a cooldown. So, Locket is always a pretty good option if your team's going to be team fighting a lot. Final one, Banner of Command. I have an entire video about Banner, so I won't rehash it here. Just go ahead and watch it if you want to know. But basically, it puts a lot of extra macro pressure on the map. It does generate gold. Those minions that you spawn off of Banner, the gold that they get does give you more gold. So it's a gold-generating item. So if you want to go the Banner route, I would say try to do it fairly early. I might still go Ruby, Face, and then Banner if you want to. So a reason you would do that would be if your AD carry is just either really far behind and largely irrelevant, or if you already have a lot of good protection for them. So they're strong, but you're already peeling them. They're not getting to them that well, but you're having a hard time sieging them. Maybe they have an Anivia or a Ziggs or something like that, and you need extra side lane pressure. And then Banner can be really good for that. So watch my video about Banner if you want to know about it, but it's actually a pretty good gold-efficient item. In and of itself, it's 108% efficient with the movement speed around towers. It's 144% efficient, which is really nice. And then the extra macro pressure that you apply can do very well in terms of you know, taking down towers, forcing people out of position. You can even run a 1-3-1 split push by yourself as Shen, throw a banner in one lane, and then you go in a second lane. So you can just cause a lot of macro shenanigans with Shen with that build, which is pretty nice. Other items, and I do this in the video that you're going to see. I think I'm going to call it my Shen #1 video, Shen support #1. I do get banner in that, so you can see how I kind of use that to get some pretty good advantages. ZZ Rot Portal, pretty good, expensive. It's a 48-second cooldown. The range is very low, so this is if you're sieging and you want to just put it right very close to their tower and just sit there and siege with your team. It can be pretty powerful. Banner has a lot better range. ZZ is more expensive, but it does get better tank stats. You get better armor and magic resist. You don't want both ZZ and Banner, but I would say Banner is better if your team is just sitting at a tower trying to siege it. Or ZZ's better for that, and Banner is better if you just want to just apply side lane pressure from a great distance. So just, you know, banner something in the base, and then go do something else on the map. Okay. Warmogs, sometimes people get this. I don't think it's that great. I think it's overkill on the personal tankiness. Yes, the extra health is nice, but I think you would just rather have, you'd definitely rather have Knight's Vow, Locket, you know, just all of the standard stuff. Face of the Mountain, Ruby Sightstone, Boots. And as a 6th item, I just don't think it does enough. You're already going to be virtually unkillable with the previous 5 items. So I would get something with more utility like Banner, or potentially Titanic Hydra. Now this is what Shen typically will build top lane. They did recently buff it to give it more AD on the Tiamat, which is nice. Now this is if you're going to split push. So this is really nice. I would say if you get this, you know, you can stand toe-to-toe with a lot of split pushers out there, potentially. Like, you're not going to be quite as strong. I mean, I guess another one could be, you could look at, like, Sunfire Cape or something instead if you want to. This puts out a lot of damage, so you would get this after you get your core HP items, after you get your Ruby, Face of the Mountain, Knight's Vow, probably you would consider getting this. Now, keep in mind that Knight's Vow is not going to be good if you're one-on-one in a side lane. for a split push, so that's something to consider. And it is expensive. It's very expensive. So this is the I'm rich. I'm really rich and I want to try to close out games. But this does a lot of damage in team fights, like a lot of damage. So the base stats are actually pretty good. It's 3,000 gold. It's a 3,500 gold item. Each point of on-hit damage is worth 25 gold. So at level 11, if you have, you know, you're level 11, you have the Resolve Tree, you have Face the Mountain, Ruby Sightstone, you're going to have 2376 HP. That's going to be 24 on-hit damage to the first target, so that's a 600 gold value then. So now this is a 3,600 gold value item. Each secondary champion that you hit, let me go ahead and pull it up. Getting a lot of tabs, got to close some of these. We're getting near the end here. We'll just... Oh, there it was. I had a second tab of it. So the first damage does that level of on-hit. And then it kind of splashes to this cone behind the target. Right? So basic attacks also deal this to cones behind the target. 700 range. So that's really far. So when you hit somebody, it like shoots out these little cones behind them that does area of effect damage to everybody that gets hit. So this allows you to wave clear really quickly. And if you're in a team fight, if there are like, you know, 4 or 5 enemies around, you're hitting all of them. As long as you're hitting the person in the front and getting it to splash to the back. That's a ton of extra damage. So this is like the team fight item for it. So each person that's hit is going to take 95 on-hit damage. That's a 2,300 gold value worth of on-hit. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage. Especially with Shen, because remember, he gets plus 50% attack speed, so he's just going to be cranking. Like, just cranking out these extra cones in team fights. Because he's going to constantly be hitting people with those Qs to get that 50% extra attack speed. So that scales very, very well with Shen. And then he has an auto attack reset. When you press this again, so you hit someone, you immediately hit him again, and it does 10% of your maximum health in a much larger cone on a 20-second cooldown. It resets your auto attack. So that's a lot of area of effect damage with a reset. Oh, and by the way, 20-second cooldown gets reduced by Ingenious Hunter plus Ruby Sightstone. So that's going to take it down to an 8-second cooldown. So you can use this thing a lot in team fights. And that's 277 on-hit damage with that area of effect active, assuming the same stuff here. Right, so just level 11, just a couple of items. So this isn't even assuming you have like 4,000 HP, you know, max HP build. This is just like pretty casual, you know, level 11. You're doing pretty well in the game. You've got some standard items, like just how much damage you could do. And it's a lot. So that can not only split push very well, but it can also do a ton of extra damage in team fights, and it gives you HP, so it gives you a little bit of extra survivability. So if you feel like your team just needs a bit more damage, maybe you've got like a new jungle and, you know, something else top lane that's just not going to be doing a ton of damage, then you might consider going Titanic Hydra. If your team's a little light on damage, that can give you quite a bit of extra damage. Now, once again, this is an item that you should probably only consider if you're really far ahead or you're just very desperate because your team just doesn't have enough damage. Very good at split pushing and team fighting. So, great item. It's just a lot of times it's probably going to be too steep for support Shen. It's core on top lane Shen, but, you know, it's something to consider. So matchup. So Shen's going to be best against Nami, Karma, Thresh, Leona, I think. Thresh can outplay him, you know, by flaying him back whenever he taunts in, but he's going to outscale Thresh in terms of his damage overall. So, I don't know. I think that Shen outscales Thresh, but Thresh can outplay him potentially. So, I don't know. I'll take that out of best matchups. I'll just keep it just kind of neutral. But yeah, anything that's going to do, like, some moderate poke damage early or something that is another all-in tank, he's probably going to outscale him and going to do better. So he's really good with other champions that can kill people early. So Kalista, Draven, Jhin, Misfortune, Xayah. He's going to be pretty strong with all of these early game burst champions. But he's still, like, serviceable with something like a Vayne or a Twitch. He's just not going to have as much peel as some other options. He's got some pretty good peel, but they're just not going to be able to leverage his early game power as much as other champions. I think some of his worst matchups are going to be Janna, Soraka, Taric, Rakan, Twitch, and Vayne. So really high scaling champions that he's going to have a hard time getting to on the back line. And then, like, popular enchanters, Lulu could also be slotted in here. Popular enchanters that are just going to outscale him once they get 3 plus healing and shielding items. He's just not going to do enough damage to be able to get through him, I think. So he's best against kind of the, you know, moderate poke type of champions, or in lanes where you think you can get kills and start snowballing early. But he does scale harder than, you know, something like a Leona or an Alistar. But they're going to have an easier time getting to Twitch and Vayne, so it's kind of a trade-off. Okay, well, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. A little bit longer than I'd like the guide to be, but he's brand new. A lot of people don't understand the mechanics or why he's strong right now, so I just wanted to spend some time going over that with you. So I do expect to see Shen, unless there are some significant nerfs to Aftershock or Shen himself. He did recently get nerfed in the early game. They decreased his early game damage by quite a bit. But I still think that he's really good. So unless he receives additional nerfs in patch 8.1 or 8.2, I would expect to see him fairly frequently in pro play and high-level play and challenger, and that might trickle down into the solo queue with the rest of us as well. So anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.